Well, we're making progress. We've got the head on. I say we. Greg's done it all. I've been hovering around in the background doing other stuff. Anyway, we got a bit ahead of herself, and I'd forgotten to replace the adjuster on that rocker. Basically, the threads have been stripped on the adjuster and on the nut, so I'm in the market for a new adjuster and a new nut. Stick that on, then finish off setting the rockers up. Meanwhile, I am looking at the exhaust manifold. What one? So it's a Discovery 200 TDI, and the exhaust setup is slightly different in so much as where the turbo fits. To bring the exhaust down off it, it's a bit of a convoluted route, and I have been vacillating between replacing this with one off a 300 TDI, which gives us an easier exhaust route, or a Defender one. And the Defender ones are more than the entire exhaust system, just for the manifold and turbo, so we scrap that plan. We have access to a 300 TDI setup, but it needs stripping off amongst other bits. Anyway, a bit of research on Steve Parker's website, and he actually does a full exhaust system which will marry up with this. And the difference between this and the 300 is, I think this one's slightly cheaper, so as I've got it. So I've stripped off the turbo from here, and we know it's knackered. It's you can't really tell, but there's about 60 thou end float, and it wobbles around like a loose tooth. Bit of a prat getting it off, just because you couldn't get to the all four bolts here and they were seized. So one of the nuts has been chewed up. But so the next job is find somewhere I can send this off, get it refurbed. I could buy a kit and try and do it myself, but I'm not short of work to do, and it all wants setting up for the boost and everything else, so I'd rather just buy a replacement, refurbed. But then it depends what I find out when I look at the costs. So there we go. Just having a sneaky peek at the underside of the rear tub, because at some stage you're going to have to sort these cross members out. I can't remember, there's a name for them, and they're all rusty, but I'm going to go and get a tapping stick and see how bad they are. I think they're around about 30 quid a shot, so I could do with not having to replace any, but we shall see. That one looks well coated with oil down the bottom. I lost a cell, I think you call it, so I'll take the other one off. And these stays are gone. And then it's this sort of stuff. Underside of that's gone. That one's been patched by the look of it. Or maybe that's how they are. But they all want doing. Bottom of that looks a bit tatty. I've at some stage got to take off the cappings. That was the other thing I'm looking at, because I didn't want to start drilling them all out and then find out I can't move the bloody thing because it'll fall apart. But I wanted to get the cappings off, and then ideally get them wafted over by a sandblaster or at least a wire wheel before sending them away for galvanising, which was the plan for these ribs. I think, I don't know, there's basically whatever I do, when I start taking it apart, I don't really want to be moving it, because if I'd taken these off to go and re-galvanised, that's all the strength out of it. So it really wants to be upside down and sat where it's not going to be moved again. And then there's a lot of ribs on the inside as well, which I want to take off and get them done. Obviously what I'm trying to do is avoid having multiple trips to the galvanisers, because it all adds to the cost. That flap there is where the other spare wheel bucket goes, like that one, on that side. And I've been wondering about whether I'll knock together some kind of whole storage bucket. Don't know. Anyway, the alley's not bad. Yeah, that's obviously, it wants a jet wash off, I think. So I need to come up with a cutting plan. By the looks of it, these don't appear to be that bad. Or, let me put it another way. They don't appear to be bad enough to warrant stripping off and new ones putting on. There's no crunchy bits, it's just surface. But it's certainly benefit getting them off and galvanised. So I need to come up with a way of holding it, supporting it. Right, because that's just the only bit of wood I had handy. So that's a support for nowhere. I mean, I'm assuming that would have been galvanised on the outside, but that's the fuel pipe input. Better nick than my Defender, and that was only 20-year-old. That was well chewed up. This has been sat in a field longer than that, been alive. Yeah, it don't bode well when your assistant's just looking at you aimlessly. It must be time for a walk. Right, so yeah, on the inside, I've got all the cappings to come off. I'm going to take that out because it's got quite a bit of rust underneath. I want to take the skid lines or protectors off. And that's an awful lot of rivets. I think you just drill them out from the outside. I've just spotted that. That's what, 4 inches long. It's had something heavy dropped on it. It's cracked through. And there. I mean, I'm not looking at making it concords, but big holes through to the bottom, preferable not. But one thing I've not tried yet is whether you can weld this stuff up with a TIG. So that's on my list of things to try out. I've got a spare door to have a go at. It's still raining outside, Spud, so we're not going for a walk yet. I'm going a bit. Other thing I want to get away and get it re-galvanised is the windscreen surround. You can see it's starting to go here. There's virtually no galv coating on the outside. It's all come off. So it's the right time to get it done. It's held in with a load of little aluminium angle brackets, which are just self-tap screws holding them in. And as you'd expect with self-tap screws, which are my pet hate, most of them have come out, apart from the ones on the bottom, because they're probably corroded in. So I've got that one out, and there's 3, 4 holding it in, plus that one. So I'm going to touch them with the end of a slitting disc and then work out how to drill out the piece afterwards. What a ball ache. And then I've got to somehow remove this seal strip for the door. That's riveted on. I'm hoping that's not going to be too much of a pig. And then that's one pane out, and then they can do the other pane. But I really want to be doing the next bit with it flat so it can't drop and go over my floor. But as is usually my case, I'm running out of bloody space. The engine's still in bits. I'm waiting for some parts on the rocker shaft. So I suppose I could clear that lot off underneath and stick it on there. Oh joy. Right, so that's 1 down and 7 to go. Holy crap! Actually, it's 6 because that's a double piece. The problem I've got then is to get rid of these little nubs of the old screws that were seized, or I've got to find. I don't really want to try and make that, but the only other way of doing it is drill new holes to the left or right. Mutter. Took the dog back inside, she weren't happy. I'm wondering whether it's worth saving this glass. It's pretty badly scratched. Can't feel it, so they're on his surface. Anyway, I've looked at heated screen, and here's an odd one for you. A full screen with the electrics to wire up to your dashboard was just short of 300 quid in 2 pieces, yeah? And yet a half screen with the same electrics, 70 quid. Get your head round that. Don't like it when it goes crunch and you're moving. I think it's just crap in the footy. Don't know what it is, that. Anyway, the 3 sides out, 1 to go. Oh. Yeah, a few scratches, but I think I might get away with that. As long as I don't break it putting it down then. So it looks like a full bead on the inside, or what's the outside face, and then not such a thorough job on the inside face. So I just pulled the top bit off the near side, and whatever the sealer is, it looks like it's paper backed as a film. It's the first bit I've found of the paper anyway. Yeah, interesting. I bet that's not available. Well, that's the seals off and the glass out, and I've just whizzed over the heads with a grinder. I figured I'm just going to drill some new holes to fit the new screws. If I can get the internal trim bits, I will do. But I think now that just wants a whiz over the wire wheel before sending it off for galv. If I can't get into it, parts of it, the other option is sending it in for sandblasting with the other bits, just to give it a waft over. But you can see down here, I mean, there's no galv left. I'm going to leave those on, and I'm just going to ream them out, clean them out when they come back. I'm going to give that a good clean up with the wire wheel. Yeah, so another job done, or at least started. Managed to break a drill, drilling out one of these rivets off the seals. Anyways, yeah, it's all gone a bit dark out and a bit rainy. I started drilling and grinding off the rivets. I've took the 2 corner cappings off with a view to basically being able to lift this end up so I can get at the floor substructure. I've took out the steel wheel box. That seems to be mostly surface rust on it, so I'll whiz that off and then get it re-galved. I'm not going to pull these off yet. Just all I've done is just nipped off the tops. The priority is to get the subfloor out so I can see what the hell state that is. I've been online and had a look at YRM, and just a piece of aluminium to cover that floor is somewhat ridiculous, like 300 quid. I mean, I know aluminium's not cheap, but I think that's having a laugh, isn't it? Anyway, we'll see. My biggest concern is once I start removing structural stuff, it goes floppy. and there are an awful lot of big dents in it, because that went out with a twang because of that dent there. And all along this back edge you can see the impacts along here. Looks as if they've been loading it with stuff like chucking them in that way, almost like scaffolding poles or something with a spike on the end. Anyway, so the job is to basically get the steel work off that needs galvanising. That's the priority, and then worry about the rest later. Well, we've got all the supports off, and whilst they look a bit of a mess, it's mainly surface. Well, I haven't found any holes in it. The top hats, which run basically down these sections, they're knackered, you can see. The fixings are just pulled out. They're only riveted on. There's only 3 on, but they run front to back. So I've got to come up with a cunning plan to see how to replace them. But I'm going to strip off the paddings which sit on against the chassis, and then I'm going to send these 5 out and get them blasted, and then they'll be ready for galvanising. Other than that, don't know whether I'm going to replace a floor or not, because I want to use the thing, so I'm not looking at anything too pristine. There's a couple of nasty areas over there. Right, well, I'll just give them a quick poke over and whacked. These are where the pads sit under the chassis, so you can see that's where the worst of the corrosion is. So I'm going to send them away, get them sandblasted, and then when they come back, determine how many of them either I need to repair or there ain't enough steel left to repair. I've looked online and they're basically 50 quid a piece. Well, sandblasting isn't going to be that much. And it's not a big job, put a patch on here, because none of the dimensions are that critical. So I could put a, what's that, 2.5 mil, it's not 3. I could just put a patch on there if I've got enough steel to weld to. There we got 1, 2, to the sides are about the same, but it's not all of them. That's the threshold piece. Bent like a banana. It went ba-doing when I took it off. I might straighten it out, I might just buy a new one. I'll have a look tomorrow. There's the floor. That wrestled all the way. So these are the top hats, and everywhere they're in contact with the steel, there ain't a lot of them left. The newest damn at 50 quid a piece to buy. What I'm wondering is whether I can actually cut a piece out, buy one section, and then basically just drop it in and TIG it in. I can't see why not. It's just a lot of them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 18 pieces. But it's that versus what, 100 quid for new sections. And you can see the bow on the floor. So anyway, that was that bit. Obviously, where this return has been sat, there's a, you know, when you've got the steel piece underneath, you've got the same corrosion there, and the edges, it's not as bad, but it's going to want quite a decent amount of cleaning up. And then there's some vertical pieces which come down here. Now the floor piece, I thought the floor was just riveted in, but no, it was riveted in and spot welded, which is why it looks like a pain. But that's the most visible bit, so I've got to decide whether I'm going to try and clean it up or replace it. And if I'm replacing it, I'm going to have to replace the top hats as well, because drilling them off, there ain't going to be much left to go at. Anyway, that's me for the day. That's took all bleeding day. But, you know, it's getting there, slowly. Another couple of hours and I've got the capping off the back of the seat swabs, top of there. I'm just looking at these corners, which are the reinforcing pieces behind the door slam. So basically, doors here and shuts like that, and that transfers the slam through to the back of the bulkhead of the rear tub. And you can see that crack, and evidently it's not a new thing. That one's been fudged. So I might get a new pair. Well, I will get a new pair. I'm not going to try messing about making them. I don't recall them being that expensive. I just need to find out whether the new ones are stainless or galv. Yeah, a lot of holes, a lot of rivet holes. Get them off. The cap in here has an under piece that's C-section that sits here, and then you've got an anchor point for an upper seatbelt strap screwed into a captive nut. And yeah, that took a bit of messing about. But you can see the damage against the back where stuff's been chucked in. So somebody's not going to get best chuff when I start knocking that about. These are the ends of the rivets. Anyway, we're getting there. So I've took all the door slams off. That's where the brackets fit. Just really I need to get an idea as to how much work's involved in rebuilding that. Anyway, so tomorrow I'll take the capping off each side and the back corners, strip off the rear lock mechanism if I get a chance. Remembered that there was some galvanised parts on the bonnet, so I'm going to strip the hinges off and the wheel retainer. And then at some stage I need to sand this back and find out if it's filler under it or is it just cracked aluminium, and then try and TIG weld that up. The framework underneath the bonnet is toast. I don't know. I'm pretty sure you can buy a replacement. I mean, it's knackered down there. It doesn't feel particularly great. So I could get it blasted and coated, but I think there's a good chunk of metal gone off it. Anyway, getting that off's the priority. The front bumper's seen better days. It looks like that's had a tow rope round it. Snatched something out and bent it all up. I had to cut one of these off to get the fixings off, get it off the old chassis, the old front end. I'm just wondering now whether it's worth the effort trying to repair it versus just buying a new one. I guess most depends on how thick the new ones are. This is 1/8 of an inch, quite heavy duty. Gonna be a lot of noise making that straight.